The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rudy Cashman, and welcome to the show. Today, you will love it. You'll be dancing and singing songs. My last show, was on the adults and the Mozart effect. And today, it'll be for children. We want you to have your house to be full of music, even before the child is born. And you'll have a much happier, healthier life. I'm referring a lot in this information from many books, many books, and I've done these shows before, so I know already quite a bit to begin with. But this book here, which I would like to focus on, is by Don Campbell, The Mozart Effect for Children. Very well written, and if you're interested, you can buy it at Amazon or pick it up at the library here, even for free. It is full of great information, and what you are awakening your child, and improving their mind, their health, their creativity, and you're doing it with music. And this, to me, is a wonderful way to have a happy home and a healthy home. So I'll be quoting a lot from Don Campbell here. He was a musician, a writer, teacher all over the world, He worked with orchestras, he worked with teachers and writers, he worked in 30 different countries. So, we're talking about experience here. And what he was working with really is he wanted you to learn the effect of music on the developing brain, even somewhat before conception. That were the parents' musical, for example, because if we do music or whatever habits are affect our DNA, which we're going to give through the children to the child. So what the mother and father do through what's something called epigenetics, because their genetic script was a bit rewritten by whether the parents were musical or not. Mm-hmm. And the genetics and DNA was changed because what they did is not just static. Hey, I was born with this. I couldn't help it. No, this what the parents did before conception. So the first is very interesting. The first organ, liver, pancreas, whatever. The first organ to develop in an infant after conception, is the ear. Yeah, it's the ear. That's the first organ to develop. And up to about 6 months of age, the infant, now in the fetus, in the uterus now, can pick up vibrations that are occurring in the room, and much more so in the body of the mother. Yes, even early after conception is the mother listening to music? Is the mother singing songs? Is she dancing? Those things can be picked up by the developing ear in the infant. Very interesting. So music should be introduced maybe even, frankly, before pregnancy. Remember, you can change your DNA. You're a musical mother and father to begin with, and you have make the fetus. That can affect the infant right off the bat through the developing ear. Let's talk about the ear a minute. You know, we have the pinna here. We can hear it, and you can see it. It's real obvious. And elephants get a bigger one. My little cats, I have a pair at home would sleep on my chest all night long. And I notice, because I have music on, or sometimes I watch a little TV while I'm in bed. I don't recommend that, but you know, with things going on today, I watched a little last night, and I noticed one of my two cats put their ear in one ear. I saw that, and I think probably, you know, they have a very sensitive ears. They can hear a mouse running down the carpet, okay? So their hearing, I think, is better than mine. But I noticed one of them had their tail in the ear. What do you think? I think they said what I was listening to was too loud. It was even a movie with music in it. Yeah, very interesting, isn't it? So, so how good the child speaks their language pattern, their appreciation for music. Remember, the brain is developing. The child is born, the brain isn't fully developed. Matter of fact, through something called epigenetics, upon your genes, when an infant is born, only 5% of their DNA has been expressed. 95% is yet to develop. Yes. So you can imagine if you're affecting the genetic expression and DNA of the infant very young, you're writing the genetic script. You're seeing that your child is more mathematical, more musical, more athletic, can move better, and can feel the music, and the body will stand up quicker, will speak much earlier than other children. That's been proven. Mm-hmm. That's been proven. So the first 1 to 5 months, it's mainly vibratory effects, okay? And but starting at 6 months, the brain is growing, it's unfolding, and sound has an effect on it. So music can capture the intelligent part of the brain, of your child's brain. Yeah, you are myelinating, you are forming insulation over your nerve fibers. You get about 100 billion cells, okay, 100 billion cells. But they connect with each other through neurotransmitters. And these nerves, yes, can you imagine the network? Just use your imagination. What's up there? 100 billion cells, probably 1 trillion neurotransmitters which jump between the dendrites and axon. That's all interconnected. Can you imagine what it really looks like up there? Okay, just use your imagination. But the amount of connectivity that you have is dependent on what you're doing, what the infant's doing, and what you are doing for the infant. So the infant has a developing brain. You know, it doesn't stand up right away, doesn't sit right away, doesn't walk right away, doesn't hear everything right away, doesn't see everything right away. So these things, so what you provide for the infant makes, you know, a lot of difference. And that, like in the Mozart family, they were the father and the mother. I think she did the piano. I think he did the violin. And that was music in the house at all times. I think the family had lost 5 children in those years. We're talking about the 1850s. In those years, a lot of children died before birth or right after birth. 5 had already died. So when they had the 6th one, they were, and it seemed to survive developing in the uterus, that the parents wanted to make sure he came out and was a musician. So they had the infant listen a lot. They played in those years a lot of Mozart's music. It was more the time of his life, but they also already knew that there was something different about Mozart's music. It was much more high pitch, and it affected the developing fetus a lot more. That was eventually studied by Dr. Tomit, T-O-M-I-T-S, who lived in Paris, okay, and became scientifically interested in studying the ear, and he established Tomit centers. They're still in Paris. I have a copy of his book on my desk here. I recommend it reading for a detailed scientific explanation, okay? So we have the ear, and we have the outer ear, and then we have the middle ear where the eardrum is located. The recurrent laryngeal nerve connects to that so it can relax or tense up the eardrum in effect and connect to the ear bones, the ossicles in there, so that if say, a gunshot were to go off close to you, the nerves can react and that you don't lose your hearing over the darn thing, okay? And these things can act like that. Then you have the inner ear where you have the vestibular and the cochlear. One has to do with balance, and the other one with sound, and then it connects to nerves which go to your brain, and actually the right ear is what most humans hear much better with than the left ear, especially if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, you're left-handed, but remember the right side is what most people hear more of, and it has to do with the location of the nerves in the body and the brain, that they react differently. And some children will have attention deficit disorder, or they can't write or speak right off the bat, and some of that is confusion by your brain between left-handed and right-handed. So these can affect your ability to speak. You'll be completely intelligent, but you don't hear right, and you may act like you're disabled, you're retarded. So it's important sometimes to take children, if they have a problem in school, learning or hearing, to take them to a doctor to be tested for the hearing. It can especially common in children who have ear infections. They have a lot of fluid in their ears. I tell you a funny story too, though. My dad, as he was getting a day older, way in his 80s, and he had slowly been losing hearing. I said, well, it's consistent with your age. And then one day he came to me, he says, I lost all my hearing. I can't hear anything. So he was living in my house by that time, because I refused to put him in a nursing home. And my mother lived with us too. And I thought, I'd take him to a ear, nose, and throat doctor. And they looked at in his ear. Mind you, 2 months I got him at home, tone deaf. You know what it was? He had wax in his ears. Yes, they took the wax out of his ear. He could hear normally. I really felt guilty about that. So keep that in mind. I inherited the same curvy ear canal, I think, because periodically I lose a lot of hearing. Actually, it's my left ear, and I go have somebody look in it, and sure enough, they clean out the wax, and hearing is normal again. So there are simple answers to complex problems, but the thing with my dad was kind of embarrassing for me, for example. Or one of my sons complained about hearing trouble, and he had been running a little bit of a temperature, not much. He didn't act sick. He was going to school, and one day I'm looking at him. He's having breakfast, and pus is running out of his ear, and his hearing returned to normal. I think he had a middle ear full of pus. So keep it simple too, okay? So hearing is very, very important to pay attention to things that are around us that can commonly cause the problem, especially the changes, okay? So Dr. Campbell recommends that you have a house of music. I want you to have a house of music. You'll be so much more happier. I do it. I take music lessons. You wouldn't believe it. At age 14, I played at Carnegie Hall. I wasn't that good, but my music school took me there. I got a picture of it to prove it to you. You don't believe me? It's in my wallet. I'll show it to you. And I played the piano and accordion there. It made me happy. You know, I wish so. My mother had singing lessons. Now I sing. I even take lessons at it. It makes me feel good. And I tap dance. Good gosh, who would have thought of that? Yeah, I do that regularly. 4 days a week, I tap dance to the Bee Gees, okay? So bring music in your house. I don't care what you do for a living. You know, I was a neurosurgeon, now I teach wellness, but at age, 39 for the 44th time. But these are good habits. Let you have a musical home. My parents even had a piano in the kitchen in New York City, in the kitchen in one-room apartment. That's true story. So they had it in mind. So bring music to the mother and the father to have rhythm, in the home. The baby will pick up on it. Have a singing, rhythmic home. That's what I want you to have, okay? And it takes we all get depressed now and then. Life is not, like this. It's a woman like that. So to bring music in, it'll be a lot happier. Start the day with music, and with the baby while you're giving it a bath. Sing a song, or tap the floor or when you're holding the baby, for example. Tap your feet, sing a song. We'll speak more about that. Okay, so. Music in Don Campbell's days, music ruled his days. Okay, and even as a child, he had a love affair with music. It led to a lifelong affair. He had an affair with music. Okay, so Mozart did the same. Remember, it was a musical family, and his music is a little bit preferred. Well, you can play other music, Bach and they all have different tonality, and they're fine too. But Mozart's is higher pitch, higher tone, and the brain seems to pick up on higher pitch, higher tone sounds better. Hertz is how you measure the energy of a sound. Herz. Okay, and can that lead to be a child being brilliant? Well, it was already. It can up the grade. Okay, Einstein, played the violin. 4 U.S. nuclear scientists in this country, they used to meet at night, and they would play as a quartet. So it is related to intelligence, but you can develop, increase the intelligence. Okay, and so we spoke about Dr. Tomatis. This book I have here, right here. Very nice. It gives a history. It's written by a gentleman who worked in his Tomatis Center. He had 45 centers across the world where they would test adults and children in Tomatis centers and determine whether you have some illness related to hearing. Heck, it could be a tumor of the hearing nerve. I used to operate those. Okay, it could be an infection, and if the brain perceives it wrong, they can determine sometimes that you're having this imbalance between the ears, and they can, through computers today and wearing headsets, they can fix the problem. Yeah, because the ear in the end is connected to the brain. Okay, and so especially it works for ADHD children. They treat at Tomatis centers who have impulsive behavior, react to noises unusually, and they can retrain them. Yeah, I'll speak more about that later too. So music alters the developing brain. Okay, and children prefer music of the mother, what the mother is playing while they're still in the uterus or afterwards. they seem to pay more attention to that, although they react to the music of the father. And if you're having fights and arguments in the home and the child will hear that, it'll affect the child. It'll affect the child. So watch the noise going on in your home. Maybe just take a few minutes and evaluate your home. Is this a lot of TV on here? A lot of screaming around here? The children that are already growing up, they'll react to it. Their developing brain will react to it. The infant will react to it. You can get a child to become depressed because of what they're hearing all the time. Or they can be a happy child because you're happy and Dad is happy and there's music in the morning, there's music in the evening. So take a look at what kind of a musical home do you have. Okay? And children who listen to music while still in the womb, even just the vibrations up to 6 months and 6 months to a year. As the years go on, they have higher IQ scores than other children. You can improve the intelligence of a child. It makes only sense. You're increasing the number of connections in the brain, and the more connections you have, the bigger brain you have. Remember, the brain continues to develop till age 2 at least, okay, and then beyond till age 2. And that's why they don't walk at 3 months, okay? The brain has to develop. So an hour of music a day also can improve. They've studied this at the tomato centers. An hour of music a day improves immune function. It speaks to your immunity. It speaks to your immune cells. And you won't believe this one, but I have read it, that plants, yes, plants will respond to music. Birds, especially the male birds, their songs that they have, it's mainly the male birds that have the songs. You know what that's all about? It's been studied. It's about mating. It's about mating, yep. And so it is in nature. How did ears develop through evolution, for example? How about the fish? Well, they have a stripe down their side, and it's like a tube, and it responds to sound. So that's how the ear developed through evolution. For example, but you can tell an elephant, he's got big ears, and my cats certainly get the ears, and I already told you about that. People have less stress if they've been listening to music all day. And some people take a walk and they have music in the ears at the same time, so they get nature, they look at nature, so their eyes is resulting in relaxation, but so also is their hearing, and the body is appreciating the music. I was a neurosurgeon for many years, and on the way to work or after work, I always played a lot of music. Once I was driving to a clinic in Ohio, and I had on Pavarotti. I listened to different types. I tap danced to the Bee Gees, but I like to listen to Pavarotti. And it was so good. It was so good. I'd had a stressful night as a neurosurgeon. I drove to the wrong town. And I got there. It was just that Pavarotti had so mesmerized, put me in another world. I had 20 minutes to go back from Defiance to Bryan. It's a true story. I've had neighbors drive up, walk up from the next door, walk up to my car because I had the windows down and I was listening to something and it was so loud. I don't suggest you play things loud. I can hurt your ears, but I did. But my hearing's still good, fortunately. Loud music can hurt the nerves. But the neighbor lady would, when I come home, would always look for me and she would come over because I was listening to the latest opera singer. But life changes. I listen to different music now. And so we changed, through our lives. And I already mentioned about Einstein and the other physicists. So Music in the home increases a love affair between the family members. They love each other more. They hug each other more. And that's important, okay? Really, the music for your child's brain, let's talk about the Mozart effect a little bit. Why is that so different? There are a collection of his songs called Mozart Variations. That's available on Amazon or the library, different places. But they're sent around the world. And the Thomas Tomatis, concentrate a lot on the Mozart music because that helped the people the most. So they're now around the world, and students learn from it, okay? So also, people speak in different languages. The sound is measured by hertz, okay? And hertz is different in different languages. The English language is kind of like 100 hertz to 12,000, same as Russian. But French is like up to 8,000. So the French have a hard time learning English because their brain is so trained in a different sound. And I mean, that's quite interesting. So music does speak in a certain language to you, okay? But children understand it better. Kids can learn songs and memorize songs that better than adults. Mm-hmm. And it has to do with the connectivity of their neurotransmitters and their brain cells. Yeah, children can remember poetry. Let me give an example. My mother lived till age 98, and near the end of her life, and she lived in an apartment attached to my house, a little house I built onto my house. Fortunately, I was able to do that. And the last couple of years, I'm not sure she recognized me or knew my name. Big smile on her face all the time. But I'd asked her to repeat some poetry, which she had learned in Germany at a very young age. I couldn't believe it. The amount of poetry that she could recite, I literally had to say, oh my, that's enough. The older brain memories are stored deep in the brain. They're still there, but the same it is with music. You can remember music you learned many years ago in high school, songs that you sang. Maybe you played them on the piano. Go to the piano, see if you can play one of them. You may feel like, I'll never know that. And you go out and you play the song. Yeah, I play the piano somewhat, not like Mozart. And it's true. So these rhythms and these notes, they're stored deep in the brain. And so music speaks in a language. In children, musical language and real language about the same. They'll memorize a song like that. They'll memorize a poem like that. And so that there is mathematics to rhythm, okay, and beats. And if they move to the beat, their body will also develop receptors, and is good as a child that maybe that you move with a child, maybe dance with them a little bit, or teach the young kids to tap dance. I met a gentleman yesterday, John Cruzy, a great gentleman in Auburn, who running a great school over there now, but he's a real estate guy. But his children are tap dancing. I said, how lucky. I said, I do that too. Okay, but if you do, the mother does tapping of the feet, even if it's a very young infant, the infant will pick up the vibrations, and at 6 months will start hearing the sound. So bring this into your life, okay? So children are happy when they're bouncing and dancing and clapping and getting a hug. So it's a mental, physical development, okay? And also it improves their spatial awareness. For example, their position in space increases their intelligence, increases their concentration, the ability to speak. They'll speak younger and longer sentences, and improve their language and reading skills. So music is a great benefit to your child. And then they found out that it increases your SAT scores, the test you got to take to see, whether you can go to college, whether you can go to med school, whether you can go up another grade, SAT scores. They found and studied, and Tomato studied that improved about 30% in musical children, okay? If the children sing or play an instrument or dance, the scores increase, and he studied them scientifically. Interesting. And other things that music will do, and I'll read them to you a little bit. So if you communicate and connect with the infant, boy or girl, even early development, all the things I spoke about, will get better. It stimulates brain growth. The brain will be bigger in the womb and early childhood. The reason the child is not fully developed when they're born, like they can't run or walk yet, because the female pelvis is not big enough. It's not big enough to account for a bigger brain. Yeah, that occurred through evolution. So it positively affects their emotional perception and attitudes from pre-birth onward. Remember what I said? You can affect the baby in the uterus and afterwards. Music makes a difference. And it provides patterns of sound in which he can build his understanding of the physical world. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It reduces the level of emotional stress or physical pain, even in infancy. It'd be a much calmer child, more loving child, if you introduce music to them. It enhances their motor development. They will sit up, they will crawl, they will walk sooner than a child who was never exposed to music. And this is when they're crawling or walking or skipping or learning to run. It improves their language ability, including vocabulary, expressiveness, and ease of responding to the community around them if they have exposure to music. Mm-hmm. And enhance their social ability, the ability to relate to their siblings and to mom and dad, and improves their mathematics, their reading ability at a young age. And it brings joy to them in the home, and they have a smile on their face, okay? And so it helps them create a strong sense of their own identity. Who am I, okay? And there were children in countries in Europe where if you didn't want the child, you could just bring it to the hospital and they take care of it. But they didn't give them a hug, and they didn't do much with them except fed them. And they found that the majority of those children had serious social problems and physical problems when they grew up. Some of those were this occurred in communist countries, and some of these were adopted and brought to the United States so they could study them. So music is the rhythm, the tone, the vibration, the sound, serves to organize matter. It organizes your brain. And if you think about it, what started the world? Maybe the Big Bang. What? That was a vibration. That was a noise. Maybe that was really the start of the universe. Maybe it just happened. Maybe God did it. Whatever. But so our world, our universe, may have begun with a sound, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then through evolution, it developed from that. And I mentioned before that even plants and animals respond to music. A bird actually has an ear. It's hidden normally by feathers, but they have an ear. Remember I said a fish has got a streak which kind of acts like, that was a transition through millions of years of evolution. That was the beginning of the ear. It even had a few, see the middle ear has in it the organ of Corti, located in the cochlea, and some hairs, about 20,000 hairs, 25,000 hairs are in there. And they find in the fish there are a few of those hairs. So you think that was the beginning of the development of the brain, of the ear through millions of years. So a baby's brain and ear react to the key, the pitch, the tempo, and it entwines with perception and memory and language. The organ, the ear, is developing while it's growing. They've done a computer model, okay, not a living thing, a computer model of the brain, especially to music, and they noticed that the computer on its own was switched to notes and chords. Interesting. Interesting. Computer did it on its own. So it is based on mathematics, science, development of nature. What we're really seeing here is with Mozart, we can become what we are, what we call the traumatis effect. Remember the book I referred to? I encourage you to maybe to read. He's very, very, very famous. Listening for Wellness, a great book. It's in my library at home. You can get it at the library here. But since this has such tremendous effect on your family, even now they're starting to speak, and I know from my own experience that people who are more positive, more happy, more musical, if they have cancer, their neurotransmitters, their hormones, the neuropeptides organize better and help cure some cancers. I didn't say it'd work every time, but it's part of it. I read in a book, I used to live in New York City, right close to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, 2 blocks, and I thought I was poor. And I played the piano at Carnegie Hall, and I thought, what the heck am I thinking? What am I thinking? But there was a psychiatric oncologist, means he dealt with cancer, who would take this lady to the Metropolitan once a month to eat lunch. Okay? Then he speak to her, how are things going, and what are you eating? Are you exercising? Are you playing music? Are you enjoying life? And then they would walk and look at her favorite art. So we had hearing, we had visual teaching, and then he restudied her 5 years later, no cancer. She had breast cancer, no cancer. There's one case like that, cured, no. But that gentleman went on and studied many patients like this, and he feels the clear benefits of music, visual art, positively in the body, affecting your hormones, neuropeptides, neurotransmitters, curing you of, helping you or curing you of cancer. Scientifically proven. Scientifically proven. It was interesting that I was within 2 blocks where I lived, although I never met him there. But just for a laugh, I tell you, I used to be 2 blocks to the park. I walk right to the Metropolitan Museum of Art to play baseball, handball, and would meet very interesting people there. One I met was Humphrey Bogart. He would walk all the time in the park, and I would walk with him because I had no idea who he was till I finally looked it up. But he needed somebody to walk with, and he would pick me up at Fifth Avenue, and we walked. And I didn't have to walk around the museum. I went and walk right through it because I already knew who he was. They didn't know who I was. Interesting part of my life. Okay, and now let's talk about the traumatis effect a little bit more. What it says, a voice can only reproduce what it hears. Interesting. Just think about that a minute. a voice can only reproduce what it has, what it hears. And hearing is connected in the brain to emotional centers. They're very close to the hearing centers, the emotional centers. The amygdala is very close to the hearing centers, so they connect with each other. So emotional singing, for example, and your mouth and tongue and teeth and larynx, I mean, they're an instrument. They are an instrument, but they have found that an opera singer, for example, sometimes the voice changed. They're going to say Dr. Tomatis, because their voice changed, and what actually changed was their hearing. And through training, they were able to equalize things. Can't do that in every case. So hearing problems can be also related to emotional problems. And the low frequency noises calm things down, okay? But if you want to hear better, be more musical, be more dancing, play a higher frequency music. And remember, too much sound can affect the hearing. I know I've got one of my kids plays that radio so darn loud all the time, but now he's got some trouble hearing. So there can be a limit to it, okay? And so again, as we said, as the trimesters develop, the first 6, the infant responds mainly to vibration. But so the mother can be tapping her foot, can be singing, which will cause vibration of her body. We can develop, in essence, we have hair cells on our skin. Yes, that skin can pick up some sounds. They have found that out, and people who have hearing problems, if they have a lot of hair, the hair does pick up some sounds. Interesting. If that, and the body can feel it in them. I myself, when I tap dance, I do some improvisation. I don't like to memorize all the different steps sometimes, and just turn on some music, the Bee Gees or whatever, Barbra Streisand, Guilty, that's a good one. And I feel the music in my body, and I do improvisation of steps. So the music is within me, and it does store itself in your skin, in your muscles, your brain, your ears, and improvisation can be a lot of fun. You ain't got to think hardly at all, and you just go to the music your body feels. You may feel different music than mine, and you will as you change in age. That'll change again. Okay, well, that's okay. That's okay. So in the 1980s, 1990s, 1960s, Professor Tomatis, he really scientifically studied hearing in detail all over the world. And he had best results when he teaches them. He has these 45 centers across the world. He's using the music of Mozart. Remember, it has clarity. It is high hertz, for example. And that's the reason to use Mozart. It has unique properties, right? It's pure, simple, high frequency, and the beats have emotions to them. Yourself, the infant, will pick up these emotions. So it's not like a lullaby. It's almost like the sounds. The uterus itself makes some sounds. It contracts and moves. Amniotic fluid is water. It makes some noise. So the Mozart music is related a little bit to the inherent noise too. Maybe that's the reason it works better. And it's been proven through MRI scans and PET scans, which are used a lot these days, new tools, they can see and follow the developing brain now in infants and children. It's been done. It's done at the Tomato Centers. So at birth, this network in your brain still is not fully collected by a long shot. Remember I said through epigenetics upon your genes have the end called telomeres. They're 95% empty. How lucky we are that you're not just your genes. Families get bad genes, they need to be expressed. So you get a genetic script that's unwritten. So what you do with the infant in the uterus, or what you do with the infant afterwards, what kind of food you're giving them. Are you giving them breast milk? The brain is made mainly from fat and some water. Okay, maybe it's mainly water in mine. Omega-3 fats. And yet that script is unwritten, and you can write it. So you're feeding them cow's milk, for example. That's omega-6 fats. It's not the best fats. The best fats you can give your child is breast milk. You can breastfeed up to age 2 years or so, some longer, some shorter. And in this country, many people don't do it at all. Okay, they have a C-section, for example. And if you have a C-section, you don't get the bacteria from the mother's gut, which make up the biome of the infant's gut, which determines the health of the infant. And then you don't give them your milk, you give them cow's milk. You know what they do with cow's milk? They put them in a cage, okay, and give them hormones and feed them omega-6 fat type foods, so they can increase the production of milk 10 times. They make more money, and then they put toxins on them to kill any bacteria around the cow to save the milk. You're building a very pure future for your child. Read Joe Keon. Whitewash is the name of it. It's about milk. I mean it. If you're ready to read that book, and I want you to read it, you buy it on Amazon, pick it up at the library. If you read that and you still feed your child milk, I would say maybe you don't know how to read. Yeah. Cow's milk is not healthy. And I'll see it. I'll stand behind it. And the government is providing it. It'll affect your child's brain. It'll affect your child more likely to have like type 1 diabetes. Is related to milk drinking. Cow's milk, okay? And it's right in that book. Same with gluten. We should have a gluten test, even for children. I don't see many kids who get it. Gluten has type 1 diabetes associated with it. So it's not just the bacteria that do it. Gluten and milk can cause type 1 diabetes, and they have it all their life. Gather information. Go to YouTube, Rudy Cashman, YouTube milk. It'll give you a 1-hour TV show on it. I really mean it. So and like I said earlier, Mozart, listen to Mozart, okay? And while he was still in the uterus, they were playing the violin, the dad. He was born 1756. He emerged a genius. At age 4, he was able to appear at court, and play an instrument. It was Amadeus, they called him, and that means inspired by God. That's what they named him. And he performed in front of a royal court. Incidentally, I was in Salzburg a few years ago, and they had all his original music scores piled up. It went right to the ceiling. I saw all of it. I think it was over 300. I'll get to that in a minute. And at age 8, he wrote great music. At age 8, would I say he was just a genius? I would say that he was born in a genius family. Yeah, they provided music for him before conception, while he was a fetus, as soon as he was born. That's why he did what he did. It wasn't, he was just born that way and the brain was developed. No, it was that the parents were writing the genetic script before birth, after birth, while he was as a fetus in the uterus, and afterwards. They are the ones that build the connections in his brain to make him this genius that he was. He did die at age 36, incidentally. Mm-hmm. In those years, people did die at a young age because of infectious diseases and different reasons. Incidentally, he composed 600 is the correct number. I knew 300 wasn't the right answer. Symphonies and choirs and orchestral music and very interesting. And so he was in a family that was just awash in music, and I want you to do for your family. He learned the song of life. Song of life. Having any kind of a job, but this is something you introduce the family. It'll keep the family together, and you'll have a family of song and dancing and music and hugging. So let's review a little bit again. That the ear it's the first organ to develop. Okay, it has the microvasculature in it. The first small blood vessels that develop. So if you develop type 2 diabetes, for example, which affects the microvasculature because of the insulin, which a lot of people don't know, you know what's the first organ that's going to be affected if you get early diabetes? The ear. Meniere's disease, hearing loss, a lot of times, and people don't realize that. You get a hearing trouble, get an insulin tolerance test. Not just glucose tolerance, insulin tolerance will catch you on the road to diabetes many years before. That's not being done today. But I got the scientific books, look at my other shows, that show that. Next is the eye, incidentally, the microvasculature in the eye. So at 3 to 4 months, at 3 to 4 months, like I said, ears a little bit functional already. At 28 to 32 weeks of gestation, it does respond to external sounds, and a loud noise will change the heart rhythm, the heartbeat. For example, there may be a sound and the baby will kick. Okay, and so it may respond to specific sounds. Also, it may kick a certain way or rotate, or that the mother can feel that responds to different sounds differently. The sensitive mother can detect that, which means the baby is indeed hearing. And you can sing things to her. Let me give you an example. Because I'll pick up the vibration, and actually the song, wake up, little yo, morning come and time to go. Wake up, hands, wake up, feet, wake up for calming and sleep. Just sing a song, okay? And a lot more of those in these books I was referring to. So pregnancy, you have to listen to this here. What can pregnancy be compared to something that we really have heard of? It can be Head Start. It can be Ear Start. And because 95% of his genetic script hasn't been written. Remember, I spoke about epigenetics. You've heard about the Tomatis effect, which we spoke about a little bit, but you also heard about the Zuziki method. You know that, and this is an interesting story. And what he's really saying is that you can do things like teach a person how to play the violin, and don't teach them the notes first. Tell them the notes later. When two people are next to each other, like my cats, for example, okay? What I found out interesting is that after a while, my cat's heart rate and respiratory rate are the same. Isn't that interesting? So I looked it up on the internet a little bit. That's called entrainment. Entrainment. That's what really the Suzuki method is. They listen to music and play it accordingly and learn the notes later. And a lady was in the Japanese prison camp, and she started singing and talking and walking, and found it reduced her stress a great deal. So an obstetrician called Rene Carr was very interested in hearing in infants. So what he did here, 2 hours after a meal, he taught the women to start tap dancing and singing till a baby is born. And they found out that those children were a lot more musical, a lot smarter, start walking sooner. That was well studied. And they found out that a child probably can tell pitch at about 5 months of age. It'll respond to it. So it's a first step in language. Okay, music can be the first step in language. I think we've probably discussed this in detail enough, but I'd like you to maybe get some poetry for children, Ring Around the Roses, things like that, and learn to sing them to the infant, and different songs as they develop into teenage life. And you're going to have better children. Can you imagine having a family of 3 or 4 and all of you singing and dancing and moving and exercising, and learn a little bit something of nutrition of my other YouTube shows? Man, you're going to have a happy, loving, successful family. So, and remember, I mentioned this book I showed you already, and Don Campbell, he wrote another book, Music, the Physician for Times to Come. Yeah, he's also a good one to read. I'm just trying to give you some reference books. So to expand your knowledge, what I gave you today is just a taste of it, just a taste of it. And if you have a serious problem, with somebody with hearing problem, be sure to go to an ENT doctor, have the ear checked, make sure it's not an infection or wax, like what happened to me. Or maybe go to a Tomatis Center, go online, you can find one probably in Chicago or New York, and be evaluated. This is a very important, hearing is extremely important, and you may improve like that, or at least be the best at what you are. I think to be properly evaluated is very important. I appreciate you watching this show, and I hopefully have brought some music into your life. I personally take singing lessons, play the piano, do tap dancing, occasionally memorize some poetry. Hey, and I'm only 39 years old for the 44th time. I love you. I care about you. See you the next show. Thanks.